So, it's 2025. We got there in the end. Yeah, so I thought I would just post this update video really just to sort of round up on where I'm at and what I'm working on and how those projects are going. So, first of all, this box is getting towards the end now. It's based on the Tom Yardley Jones box as it appears in Silver Nemesis. Now, my understanding of these boxes is that there were doors on the back and the front, as well as multiple boxes in operation at the same time. I think there were still two by this point being used in tandem. But yeah, at least one of them I know had doors on the back and the front, which meant they could take the door sign, which was removable, and just pop it on to the back doors, which would otherwise be blank. It's not the case with the model. I mean, I have just built it as there are front doors and the back's just the back. But the reason I mention it is because it makes identifying particular props somewhat difficult. For instance, I've got photos I'm working from Silver Nemesis, but I don't want to say, right, well, I'll just look at stories either side of Silver Nemesis, because if you do, there's a danger that you might be looking at damage and stuff and detail from the reverse side of the box. So basically, as yet, there hasn't been an issue because I haven't had to do such specific detail yet. But there are identifying features that that would only be on one side or the other. So it's like, if I can see those features, I know I'm onto the right track. One of those is the damage to the center divider. There's like a little chunk taken out of it there, which I've recreated, and then a little chunk there, and then the top strip has kind of sloped upwards where it's been sort of worn away, which would pretty much give it away straight away that it was the same one. And also lighting conditions can make the tires look funny colours. I mean, you might look at this and think that doesn't look bright enough for the one in Silver Nemesis. That's probably just due to the light that I've got going on in this room. The way I've built it is the roof is all attached and the base isn't. But yeah, the top signs are in now. Sprayed a little bit of lacquer on them to give them the sort of the right finish. I did, just as a little bonus, paint this right hand side panel slightly darker blue. Now, the Delta and the Bannerman TARDIS that I made in the summer was painted that blue entirely. It's showing up quite dark on the camera, but in reality it is not much darker. But I think it's just the way the light's catching the main blue. That's just for the scene where Lady Painfort's guy Richard fires the arrow, and then I think there's a dummy panel put in just so the arrow can land in it and it's not going to damage or maybe it wouldn't have gone into the fiberglass, I don't know. Not dissimilar from the scene in the Shakespeare Code. I think they use a dummy panel for that too, when Queen Elizabeth's guards fire an arrow at the TARDIS. But yeah, that's might not necessarily remain that way. I just did it to see what it would look like. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So I've got the little Fresnel lens 3D printed from Rob Ritchie. He's done me a couple of in each scale, so I can use them for other models. But that's ready, and then I've got just got to make the lamp housing really for it. Then the door sign is, if you've seen any of my posts, you might have seen one of the pictures of the door sign. That is just, it's still in its component parts, but that needs making and dirtying up and painting, and same with the lock and the handle need attaching. But other than that, it is essentially, structurally, it's finished. So move that one to the back. That's the priority at the minute, I think, because although I am working on all three. But next up we have the two 60s refit boxes. So these started life back in, well, probably September, October. I was going to do 3 at once, and then somebody ordered the Pertwee model that I ended up making, and then that one took priority because I was like, well, that one's actually in order rather than just me making 3 at once for the sake of it. And then after that was all out of the way, I thought, well, I might as well do the other two in tandem, which I have. Not as easy as you would think, actually. Although I'm doing a lot of the same things on both, because these are both basically, you might not be able to tell any difference, really. they are basically the same, apart from the fact that the construction is slightly different, so that the left-hand wall on one of them is slightly narrower at this front corner here, in order for the flat of the signpost, the corner post on that side to be brought slightly forward. The quadrant is missing on this corner from, I think, the Seeds of Death onwards. Could be wrong about that. I know it is like that in the Seeds of Death. I don't know if it's already like that earlier on, but something is done to the box, and it might be, it would coincide with the door sign being broken around that time, and then they needing to be replaced at the end of the Seeds of Death. So that's the only difference between the two, really, at the moment. I had decided to do one of them as the sort of the much dirtier sign from kind of the Mind Robber, that kind of look. The Dominators, the door sign, the white door sign is quite dirty in that. There's the slightly dirtier sign. Now, these were done by Clayton Hickman, posted them on Twitter a while back. So he'd done a recreation of the regular sign, which is that one there. And then he did like a kind of transparent, plain version, a pilot episode version, the regular one, which is this one, which is with the weathering on it, and then the super weathered. He called it late season 5, but having looked at the photos recently, it matches the end of the Dominators, beginning of the Mind Robber. So the Jamie and the Doctor outside the TARDIS scene on Dulcus, it matches that. But having put it on the model, it looked really dark and odd. I mean, it's going to, because it is dark, but it just looked weird in the photo. And thinking about it, I think I'd rather go for the traditional version, just for the model, because I don't know. Well, it just works. It's nice, and it's nice and clear, and it looks exactly like the one in the show, because it's a perfect recreation, really. But the plan was, nonetheless, to put it on the right-hand door and make a sort of season 5 Enemy of the World, Web of Fear kind of TARDIS. I mean, to call it those specifically would be pointless, because it doesn't really change much through season 5. But I do live near a beach with dunes, and I could very possibly take some Enemy of the World-ish looking photos, which would be really cool. So if by the time I get around to it, maybe not in January, because it's, you don't want to be on the beach in January. It's currently like -1 outside as well. But when it's finished, providing it goes to the back of the queue of the 3, then yeah, that could be a possibility for some photography. It would be cool. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with that one. So one of them was going to be the 60s box, and then one of them was going to be the kind of transitional period, season 6, season 7 TARDIS. So, again, they're both pretty much at the same stage of development. They're both the same colour currently, which this one is not going to be the same colour for much longer, because it's about to become the Spearhead from Space colour, which is a slightly more... It's a less... well, I don't know how to put it, really. It's got more green in it. It's got more green in the colour. So that is the look of the TARDIS, basically from the Seeds of Death to Spearhead from Space. So each of them should bring these in, really. Each of them has a base and a roof. So just pop them on the bases. It's strange after looking at the Tommy Hadley Jones one. Obviously the bases for these are like much bigger than the TARDIS themselves, because they weren't originally built for these TARDISes. They were built for the Hartnell box, which was the size of the base. So the fact that they kind of overhang so much is it's a bit odd, really. But and there's the 2 roofs. They're both the same. I built 2 roofs and 2 bases basically together. I mean, the bases weren't built together, but they're pretty much identical. So they both got their roofs. And their roof and base. And yeah, the plan is basically so this is the signage for the slightly greener. I don't know whether it's picking it up. It probably looks just sort of grey on the camera. But it is a different colour, and I've got a nice tin of paint mix from B&Q. So that will become the Seeds of Death Space Pirates War Games Spearhead from Space TARDIS. The reason I say Spearhead from Space is because it's on film, it's in colour, and it's the last appearance of it in this guise. So I can call it Spearhead from Space, but then I can also take photos and say it's from the Space Pirates, which suits me, because as a missing episodes zealot, a missing episodes fundamentalist, I find them infinitely more interesting than the stuff that survives. So yes, it's also in the War Games, but the Space Pirates is missing, which makes it God tier, even if the story isn't that great. However, I quite like the Space Pirates. But anyway, aside from that, that's what that's going to look like. So there's going to come a time where I've got two together, and you'll be able to see the differences basically from what is season 5 and what is season 6/7. Spearhead from Space stands alone because the rest of season 7 doesn't feature the TARDIS, and by the time it reappears in Terror of the Autons, it's been changed again. Different colour, different roof, different base. So that's why it's a kind of distinct, and that's why on this signage thing I have Seeds of Death to Spearhead from Space rather than season 7. If the BFI for the season 7 collection set is Spearhead from Space, I will take the model. If it isn't Spearhead from Space, I will probably still take the model, just for people to see, really, and then that one will probably be sold off. But yeah, it'd be fun to have the two to show. The one in the middle that's missing basically is the transitional period of season 5 to 6, which is, so before the invasion there was, I think, an Out of the Unknown episode that's missing, where the TARDIS prop was borrowed and used for that, and they drilled 2 handles to the TARDIS, one on the right hand door, which is good that I mentioned that, actually, because it reminds me that this one will have a handle, which obviously this one doesn't. But it got a handle there, and it got a handle there on its door sign, and then I've seen theories that somebody tried to move the TARDIS by that handle and ripped the door sign off and probably cracked it, broke it irreparably after the Crotons, which is the last time you see it with its white sign and its 2 handles, meaning it had to be replaced. But they also put a box behind the they must have cut the panel out and then put a box behind it, so the guy in the episode of whatever it was could open the door. He actually made it into a working little hatch. But in doing so, for this thing that wasn't even Doctor Who, they destroyed the original door panel, and we got this thing in Seeds of Death, which we all love, but it's pretty shit, really, isn't it, as a replacement? Perhaps they thought it would be more in keeping with the colour of the box to have one that was, you know, the same colour as the box, which it basically is. And the paint that I've got for the season 7 TARDIS, not a bad match. So that's the one that's missing in the middle, basically. But what we end up with is the TARDIS having a door handle, which it has for the rest of its time until it makes its last appearance in Seeds of Doom in 1976. So yeah, it's 2 I haven't done. I mean, well, I have done this one a few times, but not finished in this way, because I'm going to finish it specifically to that rather than being a kind of season 3, 4, 5, whatever approximation. But this one will be a first for me to have finished. I may have built one before for that specific look, but it's been years, and obviously everything's changed since then. Techniques, paint, colours, everything, the actual plans, the dimensions, everything has been slightly tweaked over the years. So yeah, those are the 2 refit Brahowski boxes that will be being brought to fruition. And then he's over there still. So yeah, fun times. I'm excited to have 2 finished together, although I will say, which I touched upon earlier, doing 2 together is not as easy as you would think. But you have to do every single thing that you do for one with the other, which, again, doesn't sound too bad, but it just is. It just feels like I can't make any progress, whereas normally I'd be like, I've got one TARDIS, I'm working on it, it's done, it's great. But doing two, it's like, I've got the two hanging around my neck. It's just a strange feeling, so probably not something I'll try and repeat. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I've got a lot of stuff coming up at the end of the month. Going to this big event in Epsom, with lots of 60s companions. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, there's a few things going on, so hopefully I'll have at least one of these 3 wrapped up by then. There's no reason why I shouldn't. Got a lot of cold weather on the way, so there'll be a lot of me sitting inside working on these rather than in the shed doing the kits and stuff. But I mean, again, that's just dictated by how many kits I sell, really. I will keep updating with progress pics, and then eventually we should get some nice photography out of these 2. Well, they're all 3 really, but these 2 specifically because they don't have buyers, so they'll be mine to deface and drag all around the country.